I was just at a loss. I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know what we're doing this for. And I guess we're just going to do it. And especially when it was those really hard days, and then some days were easier, but it was difficult because I didn't know why we were doing it, and it was hard.
Welcome to the More Sunsets Please podcast. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live debt-free, sell it all and live small, travel the country full-time, or raising animals and growing your own food as a sustainable family? My name is Kate, and these are just some of the stories of those who have jumped outside the box and living life on their terms. This is More Sunsets Please.
Welcome, Renay, to the More Sunsets Please podcast. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm so excited that you asked me to come talk with you.
Let's start first off. Where are you right now?
We are currently in Madison, Florida. So we just got done with a full-time families RV reunion, just a big rally and some sport camp events. And we're hanging out for the rest of the month here.
Oh, that's exciting. Way up in Madison. All right, let's just kind of do a broad spectrum brush of where all have you been? Where have you guys traveled to?
We originally launched from Salt Lake, and we kind of did a tour up to South Dakota, then across to Michigan to hang out with family for quite some time at each stop. And then we made our way down south to Florida, spent the winter. And then last, we call it, I guess, travel season, we hit up the whole East Coast before going back to Michigan, back to South Dakota, and then back down to Florida.
The South Dakota stops are for licensing, I guess?
My husband actually grew up in South Dakota.
Oh,
so
okay.
His whole family on his mom's side and some of his dad's side live there. And then the rest of his family live in Wisconsin.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Because I know so many have that as their home base, South Dakota. So I figured maybe that's the zip in and out, but no, family. That's awesome.
Right there in the Black Hills. So.
Oh, even better. That's amazing. Okay, so let's back this up even more. Let's go over the journey. So a whole lot more detail of what got you on the road to where you are now.
Originally, the idea came in 2017. I had been laid off in 2014 after brain surgery. And then right after that, my husband was laid off. We were government contractors, so that kind of comes with the territory. And he decided to go back to school to be a police officer. So we put him through the academy, and we were kind of at the end of our savings. And we were expecting an outcome at the police department that ended up not being the outcome that we got. And he was offered a different position for far less wage than we were expecting. And it kind of kicked us in the gut and took our breath away. And so the idea came to us at that point where we were like, what are we going to do? Like, we moved into this home when we were had real cushy jobs, and now we're making 23% of what we made when we moved into this home. And so it was a lot of fear-based conversation that took place, and I came up with this idea, well, people are living in RVs. I know, hon, it's weird, but maybe we could do it. And we laughed it off. And over the next about 8 months, we got back on our feet financially. And then I actually also convinced him that it was still a good idea to move into an RV. So we spent the next few years from summer 18 until summer of 20, getting our house ready, getting all the projects that we had started and not finished completed. And then we sold our house and transitioned to an apartment, transitioned to the RV, and took off.
That's amazing. So what was the time window there from your transition window? From when you made the decision to hitting the road?
We made the decision in June of 2018. I say October of 2017 just because I think it was kind of implanted and that was going to happen one way or another. and then officially rolled away with our RV, hit the road, Memorial Day of 2021.
We hit the road the same weekend.
I hope your hit the road story was a little bit more simple than ours. We found a
Ah,
flat tire that day as we were like packing up, so that made it
what
even
happened
more
that day?
of an adventure. We got a flat tire.
Oh no. Oh my gosh. No, we were closing on our house that day, and the buyers decided they wanted to do their final walkthrough that day. And I'm like,
Oh,
we're trying to make the house nice for you because you're expecting a baby anytime. So we have cleaners here, everything. Like, we did amazing stuff for them, knowing that they were expecting a baby and they missed out on so many other houses. And she decided to show up that day. I'm like, but this is COVID. We can't be out of the house right now. Right. And because they don't want you in there while they're
yeah,
in there.
right.
And we're trying to empty out the house so you can take possession of it tomorrow. Anyways, it was crazy. And then, of course, it was beautiful weather leading up to that day. And that day, it was like sleeting and snow and like nasty and cold. And of course, we packed up all
Oh,
our cold stuff because we're going where it's warm. We're going to
right.
Texas. It's going to be hot. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
That's nuts. It never quite works exactly as you think it's going to work.
No, no, you can plan all you want,
There's
but
always something will come up.
oh my gosh, that's quite the joy of this life. We'll call it a joy.
Joy.
The joy, because it's all over the place, right? Okay, so you hit the road Memorial Day weekend, 2021. We're coming up to 2 years later. What's the journey been like over these last 2 years?
It has been hard, like super hard, but also super incredible. So it has really just been a roller coaster um, in our relationship as a family, in our relationship with others, the learning curve that comes with having never even been in an RV. And we've been renovating as well pretty much the whole time. So it's just been a whirlwind. Uh, and sometimes it feels like it's a little hard to catch our breath. Other times we feel like we're not moving fast enough. So it's just crazy.
Yes, it's so true because when you sit still in this life, you feel like you're not doing it right. And then once you get going, you're like, I can't keep up. It's
Absolutely.
exciting and there's so much to see and do, but you feel like you can't keep up with the rest of life because you're busy focusing on the moving and the exploring. I totally understand what you're saying.
We actually are going to be stationary for 6 months coming up here, starting in May. And it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be completely different than anything we've done so far. And we're kind of excited, kind of nervous because we're like, we don't want to enjoy it too much.
Hmm.
Because then if we enjoy it too much, are we still going to want to keep moving? But at the same time, I think it's really what our family needs to just kind of recuperate. We have struggled in our travels to really find a good, solid um, structure or a foundation to life. And so I think that the stationary time will be impactful and that will kind of get it together and figure out what life looks like just on a day to day, because we never got to do that when my husband stopped working and then we started homeschooling and all the things at once, plus the travel. So I think that'll give us a good, solid baseline to move forward with, even through the travels. At least that's
Hmm.
what we're hoping.
Yeah. Where are you going to stationary?
We'll be in the Black Hills.
Okay.
Everything looks good, but I can't like say too much right now because nothing's official on their end up there um, until later October, not October, April. and so in April we'll officially be able to kind of let in on the details of that. But
Okay. That's exciting because then you're near family. So that's a different type of stationary than like our part-time stationary-ishness that we're
Right.
not near family. So we're still far and doing kind of our own thing, but stationary-ish. So that'll be really good because then you can hopefully establish a bit of routine, like you were saying. But then when you get moving again, it's a different type of routine. So, but that'll be exciting. The Black Hills stationary for a few months, sort things out, and then the itch is going to come back.
I
I'm
think
just
so.
saying,
I think
the itch
so.
will come back. There's something about once you get traveling, it's so hard to not do it again. It's so
Exactly.
hard, especially when your home is with you everywhere you go. It just makes it even better. It's like the icing on the best cake that you already had. Now you got icing on it too. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. I think it's going to be great. I think it'll really, like I said, just give us that foundation that we never really established. And then we can make life a little easier on the day to day during our travels.
yeah. And the beauty is that the kids are still young, so they're going to adapt really well, really well. So let's touch on that. Who all is a part of Follow Those Rogues?
So, my name is Renee. I think we covered that. My husband, Dakota. And then we have two children. We have Vanellope, she is 7, and we have Phoenix, and he is 3 3/4. That 3 3/4 is very important to him.
It is.
At that age, it's like so much happens between 3 1/2 and 3 3/4. Anyways,
Yeah.
he is so ready to grow up, and we are not ready for that.
We just hit the 18, right? Micah
You're
just turned
right. Your son
18.
just had his 18th birthday.
And I said, "How does it feel to be an adult?" He's like, "I wish I would have listened. I don't want to be a grown up. I want to be a kid again." I'm like, "Okay,
Right.
kids, pay attention. Now your sibling is telling you this."
Right.
So same thing, but it's so hard when you're little because you see all what seems to be all the fun, exciting things that the adults are doing and the independence, but they don't understand how much responsibility goes with it till they get there. But he's such a fireball, Phoenix,
Oh
that
my goodness.
yeah, he's gonna
He
have a wild ride for the next 15 years.
Mama, hold on tight. Absolutely. He is our little spitfire.
And then you also have
We have 2 dogs. So we have a 13-year-old, no, 14-year-old pug, and she's kind of going downhill as we expected at that age. And then we have a corgi toy Aussie mix, and she's 9. So Kay is the pug, and Luna is, they call it an Augie. I guess that's kind of a newish breed now.
when you guys hit the road, at what point along your journey did you really find that you were on the right path? So over the last 2 years, was there any moment that you're like, yes, this was the right choice for us?
I think there's just daily little reminders. And for me, I feel that when I need to do something, the Holy Spirit talks to me and puts it in my heart. I mean, I'm not like hearing words or voices or anything like that, but it's like, okay, I get this crazy idea out of left field and I can't stop thinking about it. And that's what happened with RV living. Like it came out of left field and couldn't stop thinking about it. And so we get on the road and we had been working towards this goal for 3.5 years. It was everything we were working on was this, and then we were doing it, and I was like, now what? Like, this was the goal. We made it. We're at the end. And it felt so finalizing, and I was like, okay, there's got to be something, there's got to be a reason, there's got to be more to this. Like, and I felt for about a year, almost a year and a half, I was just at a loss. I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know what we're doing this for. And I guess we're just going to do it. And especially when it was those really hard days, and then some days were easier, but it was difficult because I didn't know why we were doing it and it was hard. But then last summer, probably I want to say around June, July ish, I had another one of those like left field things come out of nowhere in the middle of the night. Like I woke up with this idea in my head. And I stayed up because I couldn't fall back asleep because it was just working through my head so much. And so my idea was that we are going to have an RV park connected to a campground where we can bring families and we can share in community and teach, like family camp style, teach all the things about sustainable living, about community living, multi generational living. It just, I can't get it out of my head. And so I told my husband, I know this isn't your dream, but until you come up with a better one, this is what we're doing now. And he's like, that's insane. Probably not, but sure, whatever. And he's more of the just go with the flow, kind of just do whatever. This is fun, cool.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, so when I get an idea, it's like, this is how it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so that was last year. And then all of a sudden, kind of rolling into the last month or so, now I'm seeing where this is going. And part of what we're doing in South Dakota has to do with that. Part of what we may be doing in Michigan in the next few years has to do with that. And it's just all fitting together in the most intricate puzzle. The only way that I could ever describe it is that God put this together for us and he wove this story for us. It's just been absolutely wild to like look back and
Yeah.
see how it all played out in the most unusual, strange, outlandish way.
Yeah. And that's typically how it goes. When he has these plans, they make zero sense to us
Oh
because
yeah.
he sees the whole thing, right? Whereas we just see what he shows us and we're like, okay, I guess, sure, sure, we'll do it. Fine, we'll make it work. I don't get where we're going with this. And then all the little pieces come together as it makes sense and as the timing is right. And that's just it. And then you can look back and go, oh, I get it. I know what you were doing now. Right? Because even for us, we're in the thick of what's the plan here? I'd really
Right.
love to
You
see the
guys
big
have really had
picture.
a lot going on.
Right? Like I'd love to see the big picture right now, but it's not our time to see the big picture yet. So we just keep going because
Just keep
there's
stepping
divine work
out.
at hand here. So that's amazing. That's I'm excited to see what you guys are doing. This is gonna be exciting.
I know, right? Like, it's telling me to bite my tongue right now.
I know. And that's okay because the surprise factor is part of it, right? To do the announcement proper and go, okay, this is what we're doing, everybody. This is so exciting. Now, you did touch on a little bit about some of the concerns and fears that you guys had going into this life. Can you touch on some of those and how you guys worked through them?
Well, the biggest concern right off the bat for us was the insanity of it. I mean, we had the 2-story, 4-bedroom. I don't even know if I'd call it a 4-bedroom because the 2 bedrooms were like 12 bedrooms. Like, I mean, we had the massive house, we had the big backyard, we had the HOA and the 2 cars, just all the things. And we lived a very lavish lifestyle, had kind of worked our way up in our positions, and we had great income. And then to go from that lifestyle that we lived, and just the idea that we'd have to downsize was crazy. Like, we could never live small like that. But it's also very interesting because my husband and I were both military, so we've deployed. And we've literally lived inside plywood boxes, smaller than my RV bedroom, So it's not that we couldn't, it's that the idea of doing that on purpose or intentionally felt crazy to us after all that we had, worked for. And kind of that, like, look, we've made it, we've got all the toys, we've got all the things, we're doing well. And to just intentionally give that up, that was I think the hardest part for us. The rest seemed kind of to come easy. The relationships have been difficult at times because we're together all the time. We have to really work on our relationships constantly because there's not, oh, send husband off to work, oh, send the kids off to school, mom's night out, all of that. We're together all the time. And part of that is we really want that, though. That's what we want. We didn't have that, both of us, neither of us had that growing up, where it was family first all the time. And so that's really what we wanted. And to navigate what that looks like in a family where we haven't had that before has just been challenging in a good way, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's so true because we're so used to, you know, like you said, mommy time, daddy time, couple time, just get out without the kids. Everybody ships off to all their different places during the day. And then we come home at night, and then you're supposed to go to all the sports and all the activities and all the gatherings. And well, where's the time for family? Like actual time for family that's not just Saturday morning cartoons around the TV, right?
Right.
And so many don't even eat meals together, right? I know how important that is to you guys, like us, that eating your meals together is so important.
I forget the exact stat, but it's one of those like mind blowing, holy cow stats about families who eat meals together. And it's about families who eat just not even every meal together, but I think it's like 3 meals together in a week. And the outcome in the children's lives, it was just, like I said, I can't remember it. And of course, I'm not going to remember as I'm talking about it, but it was just such an unbelievable difference. And it's like, wow. But here we are. We eat every breakfast together and every dinner together. Lunches, I mean, it's come and go here and there. You know, I not every lunch, but we are eating everything together. We're sharing that community. And we actually decided this year our family is doing something kind of crazy. We committed to hosting a bring your own dinner family meal every Friday where we invite anybody that we've met that week and say, "Hey, come share dinner together as a family." So yeah, that has been a very big thing in our family, is just that relationship building, that community, and that being together.
Like I know for us, when COVID hit and you were supposed to stop gathering and stop being with people. I know for us, that was probably one of the hardest things because our church community always had food together, always. Whether it was at church after the service, whether it was, a Saturday, Friday morning breakfast, something like that, there was always food. That fellowship time to me was so important. And I remember looking for it so much because our church in specific, um, complicated story, but long story short, it was bought out by another church and they didn't do things the same way. So um, it took a long time for them to get back out of the COVID rules. So we sought out other places and we found a church that was still gathering, still doing all the normal things when they weren't supposed to. And I remember going for Easter breakfast on Easter Sunday, just having all the kids go up to the front and singing together. And my kids even went up with them. They didn't know the people, they didn't really know the songs because it was a more older traditional church, but they caught on right away and the people just loved them up. And the fellowship there was so real and genuine. And the second you put food on a plate that somebody made from their home or they brought it from the store because they didn't know like whatever, it's just that gathering around food. It's next level, and I know we were missing that. So with this life now, I love that we get to fellowship so often and have that time to just talk with people and gather over food all the time is probably one of my favorite parts. Probably one of my favorite parts. So even if it's we eat before we go over because we sit around the table, we eat before we go over, like coming to your place, that you still get that time to just gather and talk, and the kids play and the adults talk, and the kids can talk to the adults and vice versa. Like they're getting so much more interaction with so many more different age groups than what they ever would have got at home, where their sports, their school, everything is sorted by age. So they
Oh,
rarely ever interact with those outside of their age. So it's that was a long story tangent, but you understand what I'm getting at, that the fellowship in this community and lifestyle is just, it's next level,
it's
and it
next level.
it makes it so amazing. And those bonds, like we've met what, 3 times, 4 times now.
Is that it?
I think that's it. I really think that's it. And one of them was in passing, like, hey, we're leaving now. We're moving these people.
It feels like now that
Right?
you put a number on it, I think that's accurate.
Yeah.
But if I'm referring to you, I'm like my friend Kate.
Right?
Like I don't even use your last name. I don't use your handle. Like my friend
Yeah.
Kate. Okay, yeah, I know
Yeah.
who you're talking about.
Isn't that crazy? But you develop those friendships and those bonds so much quicker and so much more solid. Yet again, we met 3 or 4 times. Like,
Well, and because we're not talking about when we meet somebody on the road, we're not talking about the little things. We're
yeah.
talking about the big things. We're
Yes.
getting to the nitty gritty. Who are you? Do I
Yeah.
have time to invest in this or not?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we don't have time in that 2 weeks we're at this park or 3 days we're at that park
Yeah.
to talk about the weather. You know?
Unless it's hurricane season, that's totally
I mean,
different.
we've all got 12 apps on our phone. We know what the weather is doing.
Right? It's so true. And you get into the nitty gritty, the bigger details. How do you raise your kids? How do you live your lifestyle? What's your marriage importance level, right? What do you look for in all of this? What's your political views? Even though, politics is a whole other thing, but you get right into it. And,
Absolutely.
what's your relationship with God? What's it not? What's it, all these things you get.
What's your homeschool curriculum?
Yeah.
What modifications have you made to your RV that I'm going to have to make to mine now?
Right. And come tour my house, even though it's like it doesn't look like this.
No, it
You
doesn't.
tour my house when it doesn't look like this. And I love that. And it's so not judgy. And that's another thing. Like, it's not judgy. And if they are judgy, then you know right away, I'm gonna step off. You're not my people. Right?
Absolutely.
And you find out right away. Yes. The relationships in this community are worth it. I don't even know where the question started, but I I totally agree with that sentiment. So your challenge that you had touched on was, can you do it? Can you live small? You had done it in a box overseas. And then you came back to a mansion essentially, and now you guys live in a much bigger box. How have you coped? How have you guys managed living in a small space? Now, don't get me wrong, your space is quite giant by comparison to ours, but
Yes.
it's still not a mansion.
The biggest thing is that we let go of expectations. I think for me, in a house, the house has to be clean. The house has to look this way. It has to be catalog ready. Nobody can come into my house if there's crumbs on the counter or whatever. And we have stuff. Like we have a lot of stuff. But we have books and more books and more books and more books. Our kids have like one small ottoman of toys, but there's stuff everywhere. There's books and there's homeschool supplies and there's all kinds of art stuff. And if I had the same expectation that I did for our home when we lived in an actual house as I do now, we would get nowhere in life and we would be miserable. We wouldn't be going to any campfires. We wouldn't be meeting people. We wouldn't be adventuring out and exploring the national parks because I would be so worried about what our house looks like or our home looks like. We have stuff on the floor. We have countertops that aren't clear. Heck, we have a whole slide that we installed new cabinets in and a new countertop, and it's full all the time. There's stuff on it all the time. We've got plants everywhere. I mean, you've got to wait for somebody to leave the bedroom or the bathroom before you can walk up the stairs. You just got to be patient, and you can't have 12 people in the kitchen. And the dogs need to go in the other room if you're trying to do anything in the kitchen or something's going to spill. It's just adaptation and just letting go of expectations. And we live in this Instagram worthy world, and when we see even other full-time families who are putting things on Instagram, it can be really challenging to remember that what they're putting on Instagram is probably not what their everyday life looks like. Even if it's kind of messy, there's a good chance that if it's kind of messy in the Instagram, it's probably pretty messy on a day to day. There's a good chance of that. And so to have like this idea of what this Instagram RV life is going to be like will really put a damper on your enjoyment and how much you can really live. Because if you're striving for that, it's just unrealistic
Yeah.
for most people.
Yeah.
At least it is for us. We've got little kids, and the second they're up in the morning, the house is a mess. It's just, that's the way it is. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It goes back to the classic saying, pick your battles. That's not
And
the battle I want to have or need to, because it takes 10 minutes to tidy it, right?
exactly.
So if we need to have it tidied, okay, we'll take the 10 minutes and tidy it. But it's one of those that you got to pick, because is it worth harping on them all the time to have something perfect and in place? Or is it better to just have our peace and that they're having fun and they're learning and they're engaging and they're interacting with each other and building their friendship with each other? I'll take that all day, any day. All day,
Absolutely.
any day.
It's funny. I mentioned we were at a rally a couple weeks ago. I mean, we're still at the same location, but it was an actual event. And one of the options during the rally was that we could participate in a parade of homes. And meaning like people coming through and checking out what we've done and how we've adapted an RV to this lifestyle. And the night before the parade of homes, we decided to go for it. Mind you, we're in reno mode. There's a lot that needs help. And I mean, we're living in it. We're doing all the things, and we'd been at the rally. So every day of the rally is event after event after event. So it was already chaos. But we decided to go for it. And the amount of work to get it to like, yes, come through our home. And then we had one family ask us, can we video this and like showcase it on on our Instagram? And I'm like, okay, so this needs to be like, at least look like something. I don't know. We had to spend all that day just like cleaning the nooks and the crannies and the things just to feel like comfortable at that level. But and even when people were coming in, we're having conversations, and they were like, tell me about this, what are your plans here, I see this isn't done, I see this like raw whatever, like what's going on, talk to us. And it was actually really neat to actually speak about our plans and our intentions for kind of the renovations we're working on. And it was so neat that people were just, oh, no big deal. Like they didn't care that our house was half torn apart still and different things. And they were excited to learn about it and like to catch our vision for it. So that was really fun.
Yeah. Well, we get into our own heads, right?
Oh,
We're so
absolutely.
used to, oh, don't mind my messy house, and there's a shoe out of place, right? Like, sorry, what? No, that's Okay,
It's in the
but it's like
same.
we have to pre-apologize for living life. And I think that's us just getting into our own head. And again, we live in the social media world where we see everything staged and not the reality. And I love that your reality was welcomed, that so many others were like, "Ooh, tell me more. What are your plans here? What are your plans there?" Versus, "Oh, they're not done in here. This is gross." Right? And it's not at all what happens. Not at all.
But I will say, I took about 1 million pictures all over our home, and I saved them in a file on my
Oh,
phone. Like,
nice.
pictures approved for.
But that's the time to do it. It's already tidy. The
Exactly.
rest of the world's doing the same thing. Like that they take the pictures when it's all pretty and staged and then you live in it. And then you share those
Absolutely.
pictures. So you hit on your fears and your challenges. What about some of the highs and lows that you had along your journey? What were some of the lowest lows that you've hit so far? And then we'll cover the highs after.
Recently, we've come to know that we have not been the most vigilant with our maintenance. Our preventative maintenance. You need to do this, you need to check that, you need to do all of these things. And so we knew that we were kind of lucky where we were, but we didn't know exactly how lucky we were until we had a friend come over to help us repack our bearings on our RV, which is something that needs to happen and had not happened not even once. And so we were doing that, and okay, it's okay. Except when we did that, we also discovered that two of our brakes were not working at all. So we have six brakes because we have a 3 axle. So four of them were working, but two of them were not working. And so that would be kind of like maybe a low of just that we knew we were pushing it, and then we found out just how much we were pushing it, and we were kind of reminded, okay, we need to be better about that, more diligent. So there was that, and then there was one time we were in a national park, which is kind of hard to get into, especially with our size rig, and the spot was like 75 feet. Perfect. Like, that's really huge. Like, we've got plenty of space, except they don't take into account like how your rig has to turn and angle to get into the spot. They only measure the spots. And so getting in was the biggest struggle in the world, and we got a hole in our roof. Not like a hole like through, but a tear in the rubber of our roof.
Oh no.
That was kind of like our first, oh no, our home, like this is the end of the world.
It
It
always feels big when it happens.
felt so big and so terrible, and like the worst of the worst to happen, but you figure it out and you fix it and you move on. But I just remember like just the absolute devastation when that happened. It was just like, I don't even know where we go from here. Like, I guess we're done RV, like it was super dramatic. Like, I don't even know. The world is ending.
Right? But if you had like a broken door in the house, you wouldn't be like, "That's it. I'm never buying a house again. I'm going to go live in an RV." Right?
Right.
Nobody says that. But if something
No.
goes wrong in your RV, it's like, "That's it. We're not made for this."
Yeah. Like, everything is just awful.
Oh my goodness. How long ago was that happened, the roof tear?
That happened last June.
Oh, so like fresh on the road.
So, well, because we had gone all the way down to Florida already,
Yeah.
and then we're heading back up the East Coast, and that was in Shenandoah, so in
Oh,
Virginia.
wow. Wow.
Gorgeous, gorgeous national park. I
That's
would
what I've
love to
heard.
stay there again, but
Maybe take
whew.
our rig instead.
Maybe take a tent instead.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so then what was your highest high? What's been the best thing ever that you're like, I can't believe we get to do this?
I have a friend who lives in Maine, and I say friend. I had never met her in person. We had been internet friends for a long time. We had been business partners even. And I had never met her in person, which sounds insane as I'm saying this. But I always joked with her because of we were planning to do RV life. And so I always joked with her that I was going to come and park my big old camper in her driveway. And then crazy things just kind of fell in the right order and all together. And I called her up last, I don't know, March and said, okay, what are you doing this week in June? And she's like, oh, well, we've got this, that, and the other. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to park my rig in your yard. And we literally drove up the East Coast all the way up to Maine and parked our RV in my friend's yard. And we stayed with her family for a whole week. And our kids loved it. We loved it. It was like the most magical thing ever, the most random thing, like to say I met a stranger on the internet and now we're friends and I'm going to visit her in Maine of all places. Like I never would have expected going to Maine. And here we were, like picking up our house and taking it to my friend's house.
Right?
Like, and we hadn't even like had that on our radar at that time. It was just kind of this joke. Oh, someday I'll just show up.
Yeah,
And then we kind of did.
kind of did. Kind of just happened. But that's probably one of the coolest highs because it's literally something you cannot do in a standard way of living.
Absolutely.
You can't. You can't just say, "Hey friend, I'm going to come live in your driveway." Oh, in your car?
Right?
Do you have a kitchen in there? Do I have to feed you? Right? And that's the best part is you can go and stay at a friend's house and not be a burden.
Absolutely.
Right? You can go and stay and still just see them, when they're done work that day
Yeah.
because you have everything you need with you.
And she kept asking, is there anything I can help you with? Do you need anything? I'm like, I live in this house.
Yes, that's
That is
right.
in your driveway. Like everything I need is here.
That is such a good high. I like that. And Maine, I've only been to Nova Scotia in the east coast of Canada, but I'm sure it's like Maine and just stunning. Just
It,
stunning.
oh my gosh. Totally not what I expected Maine to look like. I mean, you see it in
Yeah.
textbooks or whatever, pictures and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's always so much different in person. It's
Yes.
like Devil's Tower. That was one of those, like, see it in person and the experience. I cried when I saw it in person. I had always just been like, oh, cool. Yay, whatever, Devil's Tower. I guess we can go. Like, I had no real, like, desire or anything that stood out to me about it that I needed to be there. But we went and I cried. Like, it was one of the most impactful places we've been.
So then out of all the places that you visited so far, where has been your favorite?
I think probably, I mean, we love Florida. I mean, that goes without saying, right? Sunshine and palm trees.
Right? How can you go wrong?
But as far as just like an incredible, absolute awe inspiring place, um, it might either be Devil's Tower or Niagara Falls. Niagara Falls was another one that totally, I was overwhelmed by it. I did not expect it to be what it was at all. We actually almost didn't even do the falls tour. Like we just went to the park, saw the falls, and then it was a last minute, let's go ahead and go out on the boat. And the going out on the boat out to the falls was the highlight of that year, like the year.
And did the boat, because I presume you came in from the American side, did that take you to the Canadian Horseshoe Falls?
Um,
The really big falls versus the one that's
yeah,
right by the
the
lookout.
really big falls.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we got to go to.
Yeah.
And holy cow, the water all over the place. And we were drenched, even with ponchos. Like, ponchos,
Yeah.
that's cute. Like, we were all excited. Oh, good, we got ponchos. We won't get wet. Holy cow. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the sound of the water and the water everywhere. You can't see anything. I mean, you can, but it's just the mist
Yeah.
and just the rainbows coming off of the mist, and it was a beautiful day. And just the complete joy from our children. Like they couldn't stop laughing and giggling and just squealing with just excitement. Everything was that storybook perfect, like wow.
And
And
it's so powerful to see too, because they're just massive, absolutely massive. And the amount of strength of that water coming over the falls and to hear it and feel it that close is phenomenal. I agree. Being at the base of the falls where the mist is causing all the little rainbows is magical.
yeah,
So magical.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Now, do you think Dakota and the kids, that's their favorite as well, or would they say something different?
I think they would probably, it's up there. It's
Yeah.
definitely up there. That day was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, Vanellope likes to tell her story, her favorite day, and I don't know if it's really her favorite day or more like just the thing she remembers a lot is when we were out in Georgia. We were at a national lake shore or national seashore, sorry, and we were walking along the seashore about ankle to knee height, and it was part of a trail we were on around I think it was Cumberland Island or something like that. Anyhow, she spotted a shark in the water we were like right there.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she's like, "There's a shark." And sure enough, yeah, that's a shark. Let's get out of the water. Like it was
Right.
right up in like the, where the waves were breaking and
Mhm.
everything that we were walking through. And so that was like one of her favorite days because she saw it
Oh,
first.
that's right. Oh my goodness.
But
That's a good memory.
that was
That's a good
fun.
memory for sure. Along this journey, how has this impacted your relationship? So let's start with the kids. How has this impacted the relationship with the kids, for each other, and with you guys?
We have noticed that the kids are so much more kid-ish. I don't know if that really like
Yep.
makes a lot of sense, but they have just this curiosity and this joy about them every day, and they find the most seemingly mundane things to be exciting, and they just find all the little ways that living can be precious. And so that's been really fun to just watch them. And they've just really, truly blossomed. And I think having both my husband and I around so much more, they are become more confident. They've become more compassionate. I don't know, just better humans. It's hard to say with Phoenix because he is so young and he was so young when we took off, really. So he hadn't really developed, like, they say, oh, you're finally a person when they start getting older. He didn't really have a lot of personality or things about him per se, I guess, when we started. So watching him grow and evolve into, a human that has his own personality and his own likes and dislikes has been a lot of fun. Um, I think that my husband and I's relationship has been tested a lot more, but as a result of that being tested, I think it's a lot stronger as well. It kind of goes with that roller coaster I was talking about earlier. There's a lot of high highs and there's a lot of low lows. And to get through it as a family, as a team, one unit together, really strengthens our bond a lot. And it shows us each other's true character and true heart. And so that's been really impactful.
That's really good, because it's a whole other marriage in this lifestyle than it is in your classic house where you're both working. And again, when you're busy, you only have to be with your spouse for a couple of hours a day, right? And a lot of the nitty gritty is what happens in the rest of the day. So when we only see each other for a couple of hours, the rest of the day is texting back and forth or doing, everything that is out of habit, paying your bills and understanding that you take care of this and you take care of this, and then you have that couple of hours. But when you live this way, it's 24 hours, 24 hours a day. So you have to understand the other person still needs alone time. They still need to get away. I still need to get away. But on the same token, you have to work through the hard, because you can't just walk away and go, oh, I'm going to go to work. Oh, I'm going out with the guys. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'm
Right.
taking the
You don't
kids to
have
all
the
these
excuse.
things.
You don't
Yeah.
have the excuse to walk away. Now it's like, oh, you're literally walking away from this. Where are you
Yeah.
going? What are you going to do? Go outside and just sit at the picnic table and
Yeah.
stew? Or are we
Yeah.
just going to like finish this conversation?
Right. Right. And are we going to just work through it?
Right.
Because we have another 24 hours again tomorrow together. And
Lucky
again.
guys.
And again. Yeah, because so many say, oh, it's been great because we're such good friends and we're such a good team. And that is really good. But it's also good to know it is hard. And especially for those who have been together for a while before hitting the road, it's a whole new marriage that you have to get used to.
Yeah.
Somebody had said in one of the podcasts that it was like a new marriage. Like, we had our pre-RV marriage, and now this is our new marriage.
Well, and you have to choose each other again,
Yeah.
over and over and over every day.
Yeah.
And you do the same outside of this lifestyle, but it really is emphasized and brought to the
Yeah.
surface. Like, today I'm going to choose you, and tomorrow I'm going to choose you, and I'm going to
Yeah.
keep on choosing you, because if I don't, the opposite of that is probably not going to be ideal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone should have to go and do this when they first get married. Can
When you
you
first get married,
survive?
you're still in the honeymoon phase. It's great when you first get married. Everything's awesome. You're best buddies, and then you're not, right? I think once you know the 7-year itch that they always talk about. I think when you hit 7 years, you should have to live full time in an RV together. That's a great idea.
Maybe that's why we're so roller coaster.
Is that what you're at? 7 years?
We got married in August of 13, so 20. When
Yeah.
we sold our house would have been our 7 years.
There you go.
We're at that 7.5 years when we hit the road.
There you go. That's perfect. So you're already over the honeymoon phase. Now you're working through how to actually be married,
Right.
which is perfect. And you're doing it 24/7 together.
Woo.
But it's worth it. It's worth and
It
again,
is.
you really get to decide every day over and over again that yeah, you're still the one I choose to stay married to. So if we back up, we didn't even talk about your why. So why did you decide to make this change? Why did you decide to sell it all and live in an RV?
This was what was put on my heart. But I think what really, I had to convince my husband. So in the summer, early spring, I guess, of 2018. So after I had already kind of like, this is what we're doing, we hadn't had our son yet. I had been having a lot of health problems for a long time. And at that point, my functional medicine doctor started throwing around the word cancer, colon cancer. And that was scary. You know, different tests, all the things. Turns out I had a parasite. Okay, at least that's taken care of. But then a family member of his that we loved dearly had been going through cancer for, it was either 17 or 19 years, on and off, on and off, on and off. And we went to kind of, I don't want to say goodbye, but we knew we were running out of opportunities. So we saw her in June of 18, and she was the first person we told this idea to. And of course, she was like, if you can make it happen, do it. Like, one of my biggest regrets is that I didn't do the things I wanted to do. And so that really kind of struck us as like, I'm like goosebumps as I'm talking about it, but just as like that made a big impact on us. And I think that when we lost her, that's when it really kind of impacted him, and he realized how fragile life was. We've also since lost other people that we cared about. Most recently, I thought I could get through this without emotion.
No.
My brother passed in January, and he was only 23. It was very tragic and unexpected. So, all of these things just keep telling us, we don't have tomorrow. We're not promised tomorrow. And if we want to do this, we have to do it. If we want to follow our dreams, we need to follow them now. We can't wait. My mother actually, a while back, had talked to me about wanting to kind of do this. And she had this idea that her and her husband would do this after retirement. Well, my mother has early onset, possible like Alzheimer's, kind of like memory stuff going on and different things. And she's under the care of physicians. She's taking medications. There's really not that wouldn't align with her life now. And so she missed out on that. And then I see my dad, who's worked his whole life, worked his booty off, like always working, always, always, always. I don't judge him for it because he was doing what he felt was necessary, to provide for our family, but he was never around. I didn't get to spend time with him. I didn't get to see him a whole lot because he was always working. And I always said, I don't want that grind. I don't want to have to work and work and work for what? Just so that I can have a roof over my head, so that my kids can have all the cool toys or whatever. And so it was just kind of one thing after the next really led us to like that realization that we don't have all the time in the world. And we've got this one precious day. And each day when we wake up, we have that precious day. We have that one day, that one moment to impact our children and to impact each other and to build something bigger than us. And so if we're going to live out our purpose on this earth, we're not going to do it when I'm stuck at home all day and he's stuck at the police department all day, working for other people, doing the grind of life, and not really participating as a family team in anything. That right there is just kind of, I guess, our why, is that we want something bigger and we see that this possibility of something bigger and better and making an impact as one family unit instead of individual players.
Yeah, I know you guys talk about being family, family
Yeah.
team, team family,
Family team. Yeah.
family
A
team,
big one for us.
and to have everybody have their role in the team and work together versus what we're typically told in society that, parents have their roles, kids have their roles, now go do them individually.
And what are you going to be when you grow up? And how are you, like, who are you? Who are you going to become? And this is, I feel that there's such an emphasis on identity outside of family. Who are you going to be? And why aren't you that person yet? And I think it's really messing with people's heads. So we strive so much to just give our children that identity and that purpose in our family. And if they grow up and they do big things outside of our family, then great. But we don't want to enforce that that's the only option, I guess, like you have a place. You have a place in this world. You have a place in our family, and you are so, so, so important.
So then I have to ask the question, since we're not talking about the future, I'm going to ask you about the future. What does the future look like for you guys and your family going forward?
We will probably travel at least 50-50. That's our idea at this point, that we will probably travel 50% of the year at a minimum. Maybe less, maybe more, but that's kind of our goal long term. For now, we are enjoying what we have, and we are working towards financial independence so that we can fulfill bigger dreams. 10-year plan, 15-year plan, but it will always revolve around our family, and it will always revolve around community. And we just really want to build something bigger that people can connect with. And we want to teach people, and by no means do we have it figured out. So I need to be, when I say we want to teach people XYZ, it's not because we know XYZ. It's because we know what XYZ means to the world and can mean in the bigger picture. And so we want to be part of helping others, guiding others down a road that we're kind of traveling and traversing now and learning about now. And we feel that when community people come together, we can learn bigger and better, and we can do bigger and better. And so we just want to be part of that. Like I said, we want to do the RV campground connected to a farm or a homestead where we can teach people skills of being a family, kind of getting back to our ancestral roots, growing food, raising animals, working together as a family, being part of something bigger than just our individual self.
That's a great way to explain it. Yeah, that's exciting. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. Now, the whole purpose of this podcast is somebody out there who might be listening to this is going through something similar to what you guys went through and is looking for some encouragement or words of advice or tips or something. What would you say to that listener to inspire them to get out there and make this change?
Last summer, the last conversation in person that I had with my brother was that he was just so freaking proud of us. He's like, "You're doing something that's insane. It's unusual. It's crazy, but you don't care. And you're doing it. And it doesn't matter what other people think or say, you're doing it. Just keep doing it." And he made me promise that we would just keep doing it. And so those words still resonate with me. Just do it. Like every single bit of it is going to make you uncomfortable. And every single bit of it is going to be scary. You just keep putting one foot in front of the next. And you won't know what you're doing. You absolutely won't know how to do it. And you're just going to get to that next step. And here's the day that we're buying our RV, and you're at the RV place and you're watching, the cash go out of your hands or whatever go out of your hands. And you're like, okay, well, that's what we just did that. Okay. Now we have to get in our truck and drive. Okay. And you're in your truck and you're driving, and you're like, it's almost like this out of body experience. You keep telling yourself this is the next step. And you're like, okay, sure, self, this is what we're doing. We're driving away now. We've never done this. Now what? And you are literally figuring it out as you go. And it is the scariest and most empowering and most exciting thing ever, every day of it. And it's worth it.
And it's worth it.
It's so worth it.
It's so true. And it's interesting because it's not even one of those that you have to jump in and do it all at once, right? You can jump in and do little bits and test the waters.
Yeah, you might want to. You might want to test those waters.
Yeah. Or you might just be crazy and have no idea because you've never RV'd, you've never towed, you've never any of that, and you just sell it all and go do it.
Exactly.
On Memorial Day long weekend.
You know. Our test the waters was, okay, well, let's buy a tent first, and we'll take our two children, one who was still newborn at the time, and we'll just go tent camping in the middle of Teton National Forest for 10 days and see how it goes.
Not the same. Not the same. Oh my gosh, that's a terrible comparison. That's not a testing. That's a boil yourself.
If we can get through this, then we could surely live in an RV.
Did you get through it?
Oh, absolutely.
And now you live in an RV.
We're here in an RV, aren't we?
I hated tent camping. I hated it. I never enjoyed tent camping at all. Plus, I hated sleeping on the ground. I didn't have my own bathroom. This life,
This
all
is
day, every day over tenting. I will live in a tiny, 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 tiny trailer. As long as it has a bathroom and my own kitchen, I'm good. I'll live in whatever.
I actually tried to convince my husband two things. Once we did the tent camping thing, I tried to convince him we should just tent camp for a while. And he said no. And then I said, what if we went backpacking through Hawaii for 3 months first and kind of tent camped, van camped, whatever. And then COVID hit. So that didn't happen. But
So that was the no.
that was the no. Yeah. Terrible idea, Renay.
Right. But then how did you guys decide to get that RV that you have now versus the 500,000 other types that there are out there?
The selling point of this one, so we have a Grand Design Momentum 398, and it has an 18-foot garage. So it's a toy hauler with a huge garage, and we knew we wanted a separate space for our kids, because if we're going to do this, we're going to plan to do this forever kind of thing, and we want to like just go in, all in, and they're going to need their space as teenagers. So we knew we wanted a separate space, and the 18-foot garage seemed like a great deal because we could have more kids if we wanted and still pack them in because of the platform beds and everything. So it has, when we bought it, it had 4 queen beds in the toy hauler area. So we've since taken them out, so there's only 2. But we can also put the beds all the way up during the day, and then it's a totally different living space. So we've got our laundry room, our pantry, we've got homeschool, office, living room, if we watch TV, which we don't. We always thought we would, but we don't. We've got a TV in here, all the things. So it's a whole living space. And then it becomes a whole bedroom. So it's like having 2 spaces in one. And it really extends our square footage a lot. And I think that's why we were able to go from the mansion, not the mansion, but such a huge house and still feel comfortable. Like we had enough space, and we have probably, and I'm not even joking, like at least 500 pounds of books. So
I think we did too, but since we're just shuffling, we put our keepers into storage.
oh yes,
That, like, not our everyday readers, but just put our keepers, the ones that should they ever stop printing books, I have them, or the internet goes down, I
yes,
have them.
yes,
Those ones, because I'm not getting rid of them. So they're just
right.
in storage. But like our everyday books, they're here. The kids have so many books. And Micah's collection, of all things, his collection is huge. He just got 4 more books for his birthday.
That's great.
He's got quite the collection. And you guys probably have a pretty hefty payload in that you can justify it.
Absolutely. Like our dry weight to fill weight, we had like almost 5,000 pounds
That's a lot.
to work with, which is a ton because an average, I think, 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom house weighs 2,500. So
Wow.
we knew that from our military time,
Yeah.
when you have to get your house packed up for moving and all of that. But
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah. And then they say so much per additional room after that. But
Interesting.
we're like,
'Cause I guess
okay,
your
well, that
bedroom.
includes all the things. Quite a bit of room to work with.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had no idea. So if anyone who's listening is looking for you, how can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
We are on Instagram. Follow those rogues. Rogues is spelled Rogues. Some people don't know that. I don't blame them. It's not a word we use commonly all the time. But we are on Instagram. Follow those rogues. And then I'm on Instagram, totally separate from our travel accounts and all of that, but Crunchy Essential Oil Lady as well. That is Those Oily Rogues.
Perfect. I will add that into the description. So if anybody's looking for you, they can find you. And I appreciate you being here and having this conversation. It was so good to get to know your backstory. And I love that we started on the same weekend. That's my favorite.
Perfect. Like, how does that even happen?
I don't know. And how did we just find this out now?
I don't know. Like, I think we kind of knew like around about the same time, but I don't think I knew like that same weekend.
That same weekend. That same weekend. Incredible. Well, thank you again for being here. I appreciate it so much.
Thanks so much, Kate.
Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying these stories, please leave us a review as it helps our podcast reach more listeners. For more information about this podcast, with show notes, links, and more, please go to our website, moresunsetsplease.com. While you're there, let's get connected. We post often on our Instagram and Facebook and share weekly updates through email. Make sure you join the list. But we want to hear from you. If you know of someone with a great story, send an email to info@moresunsetsplease.com and I'll be sure to get back to you. Until next time, keep taking time to enjoy more sunsets, please.